I'll never forget the day I overheard my husband laughing in the bedroom with another woman in his mother's house, under her roof, while I folded clothes in the sitting room like a maid. Still think you deserve bayo? Tolu sneered as she stepped out, fully dressed in my wrapper. Look at you. Dry skin. Village face. No womb. Who would keep that? Her words stung, but what hurt more was Bayo's silence until he came out and slapped my wrist. Don't ever talk back to Tolu again. I swear, if you embarrass me one more time, I'll divorce you right now. Welcome to Mumlet Stories, where moonlight meets myth. Love timeless tales? Then hit like, subscribe, and join the circle. Every story begins with you. His mother, who had been watching from the corner, hissed. She's just a barren old fowl. We need a real woman in this house. That real woman, apparently, was Tolu, the one Bayo had been seeing long before he married me. I didn't say a word. I just packed my nylon bag, tied my faded scarf tighter, and walked out with nothing but my broken down phone, my ID card, and the key to the old motorcycle I used to ride errands. I rode back to Ajigunle, to Mama Bridget, the woman who raised me, hoping for comfort. Instead, I got insults. You left your husband because he cheated? You think men don't cheat? Go back. He's rich, oh. Or, do you want to die here with us? Even my foster brother Daniel added salt to injury. Since you're back, at least get some money from Bayo. I need to pay rent. I cried that night, not because they didn't love me, but because maybe they never really did. I had nowhere else to go. I stayed in my small corner of that compound in Ajigunle, hoping I'd just disappear. But life had other plans. The twist came the day I donated blood at the local clinic. A black SUV pulled up outside afterward. Two men in suits approached me cautiously. Are you Miss Chinaza, daughter of Chief Uzodinma and Madam Ifioma? I laughed. I think you have the wrong person. But then he said something that made my heart stop. There's been a DNA match. I thought it was a prank. I stood there outside that dusty Ajigunle clinic, clutching the faded rubber slippers I wore, staring at two men in tailored suits who said they'd run a DNA match. I had donated blood for a sick child a week before. Just a kind act. Just something small to feel human again. Now they were saying I wasn't who I thought I was. We believe you're the missing daughter of Chief Uzodinma and Madam Ifioma, founders of Zarila Textiles. One said, voice steady, like he wasn't flipping my world upside down. There's a red mole under your right palm. May we? I hesitated. Then I showed them. A tiny red birthmark. I'd always thought it was just a stain God forgot to clean off. But when they saw it, they bowed. Welcome home, Miss Uzodinma. I laughed again, but this time it sounded shaky. I don't know any Uzodinma. I'm just Chinaza. Just me. They smiled gently. Your parents have been searching for 22 years. You were taken as a baby during a market fire in ABA. There's a photo if you let us show you. I followed them to the SUV. Inside, I saw it, a picture of a baby girl with my mole, wrapped in Ankara, smiling up at the camera. In the corner of the frame, Chinaza Uzodinma, 2003. Tears welled in my eyes. They drove me to a mansion in Victoria Island, Zarila Estate. Marble steps, a fountain taller than any building I'd ever lived in, and glass doors that opened like a movie scene. The housekeeper met me with a warm hug. Chief and Madam are currently in London for treatment, but they left everything ready for your return. My new room was bigger than the entire compound I came from. Soft bed, clean air, no insults. That night, I couldn't sleep. Me, the lost daughter of billionaires? But I also knew, no matter how golden the gate, I wasn't here just to inherit. I needed to prove I belonged, even if no one knew who I really was yet. Tomorrow, I would start from the bottom. Again, this time by choice. I walked into Zarila Textiles headquarters the following Monday, not as an heiress, but as a nobody. Blouse, plain skirt, no makeup, just my internship acceptance letter clutched tightly in my hand. I asked the receptionist for the HR office, but she barely looked up. I was invisible again, and somehow I didn't mind. That was the plan. My real identity was hidden. Chief Uzodinma, My father agreed. If you want to earn their respect, he told me over the phone, don't start at the top. Start where your mother started, on the design floor. And so I did. The design department was buzzing. Roll racks of fabric, sewing machines humming, pattern boards leaning against the walls. It felt like organized chaos, and I was a guest in it. Then I saw her, Tolu, same woman who used to call me Baron. Ugly, worthless. She was here, laughing loudly in a tight dress, sipping from a smoothie cup like she owned the place. She turned and froze. You, she sneered. Are you applying to clean the toilets? Or they need someone to sweep staircase? I smiled, calmly handed my papers to the HR officer beside her. I'm the new intern designer. I said, you must be Tolu. Still chasing rich men, I see. Her smile vanished. You're still as ugly as ever. Better be ugly and real, I replied, than beautiful and fake. Word spread like wildfire. By lunchtime, the whole floor was whispering about a mystery intern who might be connected to the Uzodinma family. Some guessed it was Tolu, since she drove a Range Rover. I sat in the corner with my sketch pad and pretended not to hear. Let them talk. Let them wonder. I wasn't here to be seen. I was here to build, one sketch at a time. That night, the butler brought my dinner and quietly laid a portfolio beside it. Your designs, he said. They're good. Your mother would be proud. I stared at the stitched fabric. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't dreaming. I was becoming. The following week, something shifted. My designs began turning heads. Not officially, of course. No one clapped. No one cheered. But I saw it. The way the senior designers paused when they passed my desk. The way they lingered over my sketches. My patterns blended traditional ankara with modern lines. My mother's influence, maybe, my heart, my scars. Then came the announcement. Manager Femi, who always winked too long and sided with Tolu, called the interns together. Zarila will showcase a special collection at the Lagos Fashion Expo. All interns must submit one design. The best will be featured. I stayed up that entire weekend. Alone in my guest wing, I sewed by lamplight, hand beating every cuff. I'd seen real suffering. I wanted that strength to live in every stitch. Monday morning, I submitted my design. My name, Chinaza, was written in small, neat script on the bottom right. By noon, chaos erupted. Tolu's design had been chosen. I froze when I saw it. My fabric, my color palette, my signature beadwork. She had stolen it. This is brilliant, Manager Femi declared, holding a high. Tolu, you've outdone yourself. I stepped forward, my hands trembling. Sir, that's my design. Tolu turned with mock surprise. Oh, please. You helped me with some ideas. Don't exaggerate. Manager Femi laughed. You interns need to learn teamwork. Not everything is about you. My throat burned, but I swallowed my tears. If this is how the game was played, I needed to change the rules. Later that day, as I sat quietly at my desk trying to hold my emotions in, someone tapped my shoulder. It was the butler from home, Mr. Tund. The chairman wants all selected expo designs reviewed privately, he whispered. And Manager Femi, he added with thin smile, has just been reassigned to our branch in Lokoja. I blinked. Tolu was still smirking across the room, thinking she'd won, but she had no idea. The real review hadn't even started. And when it did, the truth, my truth, was going to walk straight through the front door. The next morning, as Zarila started with stares, whispered rumors, side glances. Someone had spread a lie that I was getting special treatment because I was sleeping with the butler. Yes, the butler. Shameless girl, one in turn murmured. Just jealous of Tolu's shine, said another. I didn't respond. I just lowered my head and focused on my sketch pad. I'd learned something growing up poor. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. But that day, someone unexpected walked in. Tall, brown-skinned, clean-cut in a navy kaftan. Confident but quiet. The whole room went still. That's Caleb, someone whispered. Son of Chief Odegul from Odegul Holdings. They're co-sponsoring the Lagos Fashion Expo. Tolu sprang from her seat like a spring trap. "Oh, you must be Caleb," she chirped. "I'm Tolu, lead intern designer. I'd be honored to." "I prefer to review all submissions anonymously," he said, politely but firmly. "Merit over names." Her face fell. He walked past me, slowing slightly to glance at the sketch on my table. "That's bold," he said quietly. I looked up, startled. "Sorry. The design," he clarified. "Blending aquite with suede lining. It's unexpected." I hesitated, then replied softly, "African fashion should evolve, but it should never forget where it started." He smiled. "I'll remember that." Later that day, I heard the announcement. Entry 104 has been selected for the main expo showcase. Gasps filled the room. "Wait, whose is that?" A senior staff whispered. "We don't know yet. Submissions were anonymous." I held my breath. Caleb stepped into the hallway with the creative director. "This is the one," he said. "There's originality, culture, soul. Whoever made this belongs." Tolu's mouth twisted. "That's impossible," she hissed. "She's a nobody." But Caleb looked straight at me and said, "No one who creates something this meaningful is a nobody." I sat in stunned silence as the realization sank in. They didn't just choose my work. They felt it. And for the first time in years, I began to believe maybe my story wasn't over. Maybe it was just beginning. Just when I thought things were finally shifting in my favor, my past found a way to catch up. It was a Friday evening. I was leaving the design floor late, head full of fabric, color palettes, and sketches for the expo, when I heard someone call my name. "Chinaza." I froze. It was Daniel, my foster brother, leaning against a dented Toyota Corolla at the Zarila gate, wearing a fake designer belt and a desperate smile. I crossed my arms. "What are you doing here?" "I came to check on you," he said, grinning. "So now you work in big places and can't even remember your family?" "Family?" I said, almost laughing. "The same people who tried to marry me off to someone they called half-mad for 300,000 naira? He scratched his head. "Ah, leave that gist. Look, Mama Bridget is sick. Hospital in Mushin says she needs surgery for 100,000. I blinked, heart caught between anger and guilt. I hadn't seen that woman in months. Not since she called me barren and ungrateful. Not since she chose Bayo's money over my dignity. Still, she raised me." I sighed. "I'll send 200. That's all I can manage." He scoffed. "Is that all? You day work for billionaires." I turned and walked away. That should have been the end. But the next morning, I woke up to my picture all over social media. Heiress abandons foster mother in Lagos hospital. Billionaire intern exposed for heartlessness. My hands shook. How did they get my name? My photo? My job? Someone inside Zarila was feeding them. "It'd be like say we get a mole," the butler muttered later that evening. "Or a snake." I didn't need to guess. It was Tolu. Who else would benefit from dragging me through the mud? I confronted her in the break room. She was sipping a pink smoothie like nothing had happened. "Why are you spreading lies about me?" She raised a brow. "Don't flatter yourself. You're not that important." I stared into her eyes and saw it. Fear. Because no matter how loud she screamed, my silence still made more impact. And she hated that. If Tolu couldn't steal my work or silence my name, she'd try something darker. It happened 3 days later. I had just wrapped up a creative meeting when I was summoned to HR. "Chinaza," the manager began, face unreadable. "We received disturbing evidence suggesting you've been leaking Zarila's designs to rival brands." My heart dropped. "What?" He slid an envelope across the table. Inside were printed chat screenshots, anonymous messages, even blurry photos of someone who looked like me handing over design sketches to a stranger. None of it was real, but it was detailed enough to raise questions. "You're suspended pending investigation," he said. "Please hand in your access badge." I felt like the floor vanished beneath me. I walked out like a ghost, eyes on me from every corner. Some stared, some smirked. Even the interns I'd mentored whispered behind cupped hands. And in the corner of the hallway, arms folded and lip curled, was Tolu. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. I knew. That night, I sat by the fountain garden inside Zarilla's compound, my laptop beside me, my hands shaking too hard to open it. Maybe I didn't belong here. Maybe all of this, the name, the bloodline, the talent, meant nothing. But across town, someone else wasn't sleeping. Caleb. He had requested security footage the moment the report surfaced, and what he saw confirmed everything. Tolu, entering HR early that morning, envelope in hand, glancing around, slipping it onto the manager's desk, leaving, alone, no assistant, no witness, no real complaint. He didn't hesitate. That same night, Caleb called my father, Chief Uzodinma, who had just returned from London with Madam Ifeoma. "It's time we stepped in," Chief said. "She's done more than prove herself," Caleb replied. "But if this continues, she won't survive it." The next morning, Zarilla's entire staff was called into the auditorium. Rumors swirled. Whispers grew. Tolu walked in confidently, dressed like a peacock in yellow silk. But when Chief Uzodinma and Madam Ifeoma entered behind Caleb, silence swallowed the room. The storm I had survived in private was about to be revealed in public. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chief Uzodinma began, voice calm but commanding, "we're here today to reveal the identity of someone you've all seen, but never truly known." The staff shifted uneasily in their seats. I stood at the back, suspended, forgotten, surrounded by whispers. Caleb was up front, beside Madam Ifeoma, holding a flash drive. 22 years ago, my daughter went missing during a fire in ABA. My wife and I searched for her endlessly, Chief continued, his eyes sweeping across the room. What we didn't know was that she would grow up in a place where she was mocked, abandoned, even discarded. Then Caleb inserted the flash drive into the screen. And there it was, footage from the security camera. Tolu, dressed in black, slipping an envelope into the HR manager's tray, pausing to look around, then walking away. Gasps erupted. Chief Uzodinma didn't flinch. As of this moment, Miss Tolu is terminated from Zarilla Textiles for falsification, harassment, and slander. Manager Femi, who enabled this scheme, is also dismissed. Tolu jumped to her feet. "It wasn't me. I was framed. I was jealous, yes, but—" "You were warned," Madam Ifeoma said coldly. "And jealousy is not a strategy." Then my father turned to crowd. "The girl you insulted, stole from, and overlooked is Chinaza Uzodinma, my daughter. And as of today, she is reinstated not just as an intern, but as a creative lead for Zarilla's Lagos Fashion Expo collection." You could have heard a pin drop. I walked to the front slowly, heart pounding. Tolu stared at me, her face pale. One intern whispered, "She's the heiress," but I didn't need their applause or their shock. I stood tall for the girl who used to fold clothes in shame, who cried in a dusty room in Ajigunal, who was told she'd never be enough. That girl had become a woman, and that woman now held the pen, not to rewrite history, but to start her own, because I had learned something powerful. When you finally know your worth, no one else gets to define it for you again. The design floor buzzed with fresh energy. Zarilla's stock rose. Orders flooded in from Ghana, Kenya, even London. And for the first time, people looked at me with admiration instead of pity or doubt. But peace in my life never came without a test. It happened on a stormy Monday, just 3 days before the Lagos Fashion Expo. I was reviewing fittings with the design team when my assistant burst in. "Ma," she panted, "there's a situation downstairs. It's your ex-husband, Bayo." My heart stuttered. I rushed down to the lobby, and there he was, soaked in rain, unshaven, waving fabricated documents in front of reporters. "She stole my company's files," he shouted. "She used my resources to climb her way up." Cameras flashed. The media had arrived hungry. Inside, the executive board panicked. "We need to release a statement now," one director said. "No," I replied, standing firm. "We respond, but we do it right." I stepped out under the canopy, Rain misted my face and walked calmly to press. My name is Chinaza Uzadinma. I was once mocked in that man's house, treated like a maid, beaten, discarded, but I never stole anything. Gasps. I held up a folder. Here's a forensic audit, conducted last week. Every design Bayo is claiming as his was created during my internship at Zorilla on company property. They are mine. Caleb stepped forward beside me. As co-sponsor of the Fashion Expo, I can confirm her designs are original, independently verified. Bayo tried to lunge forward. She ruined me. Security restrained him. Sir, you need to leave. He looked at me, drenched, desperate. This isn't over. I met his gaze, steady. For you, maybe, but for me it already is. That night, I sat in my car, the city lights blinking through my windshield like quiet applause. Janet was gone. Bayo had been exposed. But something in my spirit whispered that the real storm wasn't over. Not yet, because sometimes the deepest betrayals come from within your own walls. The day of the Lagos Fashion Expo dawned like a page from prophecy. Clear skies, cool breeze, and the entire fashion industry gathered at Eco Convention Center. Backstage at Zorilla's tent, I was calm. Too calm. My recreated designs, 7 bold, heritage-fused masterpieces, stood tall on racks, ready to walk into history. The ones Janet tried to destroy. The ones we rebuilt in 2 sleepless nights with fabric flown in from Ghana and tailors from Lekki. Then came the sound. Applause. Not for me, yet, but for the models stepping onto the runway. It was starting. Caleb, in a custom Igbata sewn from my earliest fabric prototype, leaned close. You ready? I was born ready. I whispered. The lights dimmed. Music rose. The show began. One after another, the models strutted down the runway. Encore emerged with silk, capes beaded by hand, Yoruba motifs flowing like rivers of gold. The crowd stood before the finale even hit. Then came my walk. I stepped onto the runway. Alone, the daughter they once called ugly, now leading West Africa's finest fashion house. A standing ovation thundered through the hall. But before the show could close, a scream rang out backstage. Help! Someone fainted. Security scrambled. Cameras turned. It was a guard, drugged. Within seconds, chaos erupted again. Janet had returned, wearing white lace, face powder like a ghost of her former self. She stormed the stage with a hijacked microphone. She's a fraud, she screamed. She stole my life. I was supposed to be the Zorilla heiress. The crowd gasped. I took a deep breath and walked forward. You were given chances, I said calmly, to grow, to learn, to create something of your own. Janet shook her head, trembling. But they loved you, not me. No one handed me love. I replied. I bled for it. I stitched it into every fabric. I earned it. Security arrested her on the spot for trespassing, destruction, and assault. The crowd erupted again. But this time, it was for me. That night, I stood on Zorilla's rooftop balcony with Caleb, wearing the same dress I designed on my darkest night. I don't feel like the girl they threw away anymore. I whispered. Caleb smiled. You're not. You're the woman who rebuilt her crown stitch by stitch. And he was right, because I didn't just survive. I designed my legacy.